Уважаемые коллеги, сегодня
Dear
3
colleagues, today is the 3rd of August, and we're beginning our online conference as part of the International Alta Industry Business Mission to African countries. My name is Andrei Zhukovsky. I'm the head of the digital platform for organizing international meetings, B2B Russia.com, vice president of the Russian Union of Exhibitions and Fairs, and I have the honor of being the moderator of today's session. Please allow me to say at the beginning a couple of words about some housekeeping issues. Our conference is going to last 2 hours. We are going to have 11 very interesting and engaging speakers. I would like to ask them right away to stick to the time limit. I will keep reminding you of the time limit, and you will use the same link that you used to sign up for it. And there will be 2 YouTube channels in Russian and in English, and I have these channels opened in front of me, and you'll be able to use them to ask questions to our speakers, and I'm going to read them out here live. I was forbidden from speaking English to avoid issues with switching between channels. I will speak Russian, but of course, speakers could speak the language they feel most comfortable using. They can also ask questions of other speakers and use our chat function. I will see questions in the chat. That's all of the housekeeping issues that I wanted to talk about, and let's go back to the conference topic. Africa is one of the most promising markets for the international business, for growing international business. It's a continent with 54 countries on it, with huge resources of minerals, and the overall GDP of the continent exceeds 4.5 trillion US dollars. And I think it is this high level of interest towards Africa that has led to this fact that we had gathered here 46 exporters from Russia who want to enter the market of Africa or to strengthen their positions there. The organizers of our conference traditionally includes the Russian Export Center that makes everything possible to make Russian products recognizable all over the world. And I would like to give the floor now for words of welcome to Alexander Belishov, Head of Agent and Partner Network Development Department at Russian Export Center. Alexander Belishov, you have the floor. Good afternoon, dear participants of this event. Mr. Zhukovsky, thanks again for organizing and hosting this event, for being the moderator. Ambassadors, representatives of the Russian trade missions in other countries, dear Russian and foreign participants of this online business mission. I represent our international network, the partner network, and I am the head of Agent and Partner Network Development Department. As Mr. Zhukovsky has already mentioned, our Russian Export Center devotes a lot of attention to developing exports to Africa, including, well, traditional countries we export to in the north of Africa, and also the countries located in the sub-Saharan region. In the previous year, we supported almost $1 billion worth of exports, $800 million worth of exports. And we provided those exports there with the support of Russian Export Center. We mostly targeted Algeria and Morocco, the countries in the northeast, but we've also supplied goods to Nigeria, Kenya, Ghana, and other countries in the sub-Saharan region. We don't have our own office in Africa, but we have our own pavilion in Egypt, which has been used quite successfully by Russian producers of food products and of groceries, and they can display their products at that pavilion in Egypt. We have very close relations with the trade mission of Russia, as we do with other trade missions in other countries, and we are currently working on delivering water and products to one of our partners who is located in Egypt. Speaking about our partner network, I'd like to say that we have partners in the Democratic Republic of the Congo, the Republic of Congo, Angola, Cote d'Ivoire, and Rwanda. We also are in the process of establishing partner relations with partners in Ethiopia, Kenya, Tanzania, Ghana, and Senegal. And of course, Egypt and Algeria on top of all. Let me explain how our partner network works, the network of our partners in other countries, and what are the offers that we have for them. All of the services of Russian Expert Center are free of charge to the users. As for the foreign network, we help them conducting negotiations with potential partners in African countries, participation in online and offline events, search for partners and buyers in Africa, and establishing who would be the best suppliers. We either work through our trade missions or with our direct partners in foreign countries, including in Africa. And we route queries for products. We find the supplier, organize and set up negotiating meetings, and we try to make sure that they all come to a transaction that is concluded. We have certain countries with whom our relations have been better developed than with the others, but we have identified some core 20 countries we work more actively with. And these include, of course, countries where we have trade missions of Russia present there. But it also is a case where we have countries where there are no trade missions, but our partners could go straight to us, or Russian exporters can go to the Russian Export Center asking for our support in targeting this market. I'm sure that you've heard about them, of course. This includes supply of rail carriages to Egypt, and that's one of the flagship projects. Plus, this includes delivery of agricultural products, heavy engineering products, and others. In addition, we work with representation offices of the big four businesses, TPP, Apora, Business Russia, and the Russian Union of Industrialists and Entrepreneurs. How can you get access to our services, or how can you become a partner? And of course, I'm talking now more to our foreign participants. If you are exporting Russian products to those countries in Africa on your own, you can sign a partnership agreement with us, and then you will be able to send us requests for exports of certain products. We'll try to help you as quickly as possible, find the supplier, and we'll organize meetings with your potential partners. And we could also help with providing insurance tools using the tools of Roseximbank. XCR is the insurance company that we also use. If you are exporters, you can go straight to us. We will tell you about what are the exhibitions and fairs that are scheduled to take place in Africa. We will tell you where we have partners, and we'll try to help you find potential partners in Africa. That's in a nutshell everything that I had. I do not want to take too much time out of the agenda and out of the time limits of our speakers, who know their markets quite well, and I'm sure they will share a lot of very useful information with you. Thank you, Mr. Belishov. Thank you for your welcoming address, but please allow me to ask you a question before I let you go. You are in charge of developing REC's agency and partner network. What are the key steps that one should take if one needs to take advantage of your services? So what do you need to have? Go to the website, go to the personal account, or send a query to the Russian Expert Center? What would be the right way to do it? You can go straight to me by taking my context from the organizers. I will remind you where we have partners: Congo, the Democratic Republic of the Congo, and the Republic of Congo, Angola, Cote d'Ivoire, and Rwanda. That's where we already have partners. In addition, you can go through us to the trade missions of Russia. And we have partners with whom we have been interacting but haven't yet signed contracts with. But exporters could still work with them in Ethiopia, Kenya, Tanzania, Ghana, and Senegal. If you're looking for a potential partner in one of these countries, you can go to REC, access our partner network via myself or my colleagues. We will give you all of the contact details and we'll help you get in touch with our partners. And of course, our partners operate on a commercial basis. We provide our services free of charge, but our partners take a fee for their services. Or it could be a success fee that would be based on the deal that you would hopefully close. Mr. Belishov, what is the average size of this success fee? Is there a percentage of a contract, of a deal? I understand that everyone would have different conditions or terms, but what is the average? Of course, you're right, they all vary. I cannot give you an average number because the financial interaction between the partners is something that we don't regulate at REC. That's between the partners. All right, thank you very much. If you would allow us, we would provide your contacts to our exporters. We will make that information available via the chat of this conference. And I'd like to urge all of our participants to ask questions, direct them to Mr. Belishov and to the others. Thank you very much, Mr. Belishov, for your warm words of welcome and for your very good introductory remarks. And we continue. And now we are really going to the African continent. And I would like to give the floor to Nikolai Aslanov, trade representative of the Russian Federation in Egypt. Mr. Aslanov, Egypt is a very well-developed country, probably one of the most developed countries in Northern Africa. What are the outlooks for Russia's exports in Africa? Any piece of advice you would like to give to those who would want to enter the market of Egypt? Please, you have the floor. Dear colleagues, can you hear me well? Yes, we can hear you well and we can see you quite well. Thank you very much. These days, it's not something that you see often. It's probably a very lucky day that we're having today. You're right. Egypt is indeed one of the most interesting countries on the continent. It's probably not the largest economy, but it is up there together with South Africa, and it is a very dynamically developing economy on the continent. Egypt is a very populous nation, up to or close to 100 million people live here, and the growth rate is 2.5% population-wise, and therefore the population is growing. It's a great indicator when you're looking to find the right match for your exports. The GDP of the country is growing year on year, regardless of the international situation. It's been positive for years. Last year, the GDP was at about $280 billion. One cannot say that Egypt is a very well-developed nation. That would be an overstatement, but it is a very rapidly developing country. And it is a country that is a member of many international organizations, including trade organizations. Well, our president at the Africa-Russia summit said that we trade with Africa, but the trade turnover is quite low. It needs to be pitched up. And he also said that Egypt is 1/3 of all of Russia's trade with Africa. And at times that number reaches 40%. At the moment, the situation is about there. Egypt is the largest partner of Russia on the African continent. What can a Russian company do to have success on the market here in Egypt? First of all, as strange as it may sound, you need to understand what kind of exports are needed by this country. And you need to be aware that this fits well with your strategy of expanding to foreign markets. Once you've decided that, you need to study the market, the study of goods and of services alike, and to see what's the situation with the local manufacturing, what is imported, what is exported, and what are the laws in the country, in Egypt. VAT is at 14%, and the profit tax is at 22.5%. And this gives you an idea of whether it's going to be interesting for you to advance your products on this market. And of course, you need to look at what are the barriers that exist for exports. Once you've done that, you need to fine-tune your strategy and decide whether you want to have an office opened in the country or whether you want to have a separate company that you will be working with, and that will be a distributor that will be selling your products. Then you would need to pay attention to selecting this partner. And quite often, Russian producers and exporters do not really look into this matter with the necessary level of detail. And that is an issue sometimes, or that can create issues later on.
So oftentimes you have to focus on little details. And what I've already mentioned, this may not be always supported by the trade mission, but sometimes when we do support that, when we do help them, we are helping them avoid certain obstacles and mistakes. As of today, what products and goods are we talking about? Well, the first item would be wheat, oils, different metals, oil and gas products, petroleum products, transport vehicles. And Alexander was absolutely right in saying that we've started working in railways. We started doing certain steps here as well. Speaking about economic development of Egypt and the program for future development, it looks like that there are some items that are of utmost interest to the Egyptian business community and Egypt in general. First of all, that'll be food to support the strategic balance. And the population is growing, so the need for this kind of products is going up. There's another area, technical machinery and this type of products, because as of today in Egypt, they don't have big factories, big plants to produce such products. Another sector that is also very interesting for Egypt is processing of petroleum products. Medical sector and pharmaceutical sector are developing at a high pace as well. There are quite interesting programs already in place, and there's a program to attract more of this to Egypt from other countries. Over the recent years, for the last several years, information and communication sectors are developing. Trading, communication, all of that is of high interest. Speaking about Egypt, we all remember what was there in the 20th century, in the 50s, in the 60s, in the 60s. Some call it the golden years. And people tend to compare what it was like back then and what we have now. However, I'm convinced, I'm sure that presently, ever since 2013, when the power was transformed in Egypt, there were a lot of new things, and Russia has done quite a lot. And I think that the relationship and cooperation between the two countries have improved, and our presidents have met more than 10 times. And they have discussed quite a number of projects. They have signed different agreements, and that includes partnership agreements. Over these years, with the help of the trade mission, in certain cases, we've been developing different projects, for example, construction of the nuclear power plant. A number of rail cars have been supplied. Energy sector cooperation is developing really well. Quite recently, Zarubezhneft company has entered this market and started working. And other companies are developing their business as well. As for transport, Autovaz has been supplying its products for quite some time now. As for Russian railways, you can say that they're very much interested in this market, and they're happy to help Egyptian railway market develop further. As for SMEs, small and medium enterprises, we know that certain types of equipment have been supplied to them as well. There are plans to supply more, including agricultural equipment. Chemical sector is developing, and there's a Russian company that helped upgrade certain facilities. Well, we're not talking about that big of a money, but we're talking about several hundreds of thousands of dollars. And this is enough to prove that Russian companies are quite capable of supporting Egyptian companies. So my recommendation to the Russian companies would be, before you make a decision, even if you have a partner, even if you have a plan in mind, if you have a draft contract or agreement, do get in touch with the trade mission here in Egypt. Get in touch with us, because we have a lot to offer. We have some news, and we have some information that might help you. So it's worth contacting us, because we can actually help you. And we can tell you about the obstacles and barriers that are unfortunately there, and the number of these obstacles is increasing. And we recommend you visit our website, the website of the Trade Mission. You can find a lot of useful information there. In conclusion, I would like to express my gratitude to the organizers of this event. Thank you very much. And I would like to mention one more project. And for Russia, this is a very important project. It's the creation of the industrial zone. This is going to be quite a big cluster. And at the moment, we are actively working on this project. We really hope that this year or next year, we'll start actually working in the field. There are land plots already allocated for that. And we're talking about the area close to Suez Canal. So I wish all of us good luck and every success in all your endeavors. Thank you. Nikolai, thank you very much. This has been a very interesting report. We have a question for you. Are there any national peculiarities or specifics that Russian exporters have to know about if they wish to enter the Egyptian market? Absolutely, no doubt. Specifics and peculiarities are there. Seems to me they are as follows. Sometimes it is very difficult or challenging to talk to Egyptians, be it email or other means of communication. We have a number of examples where it was quite challenging to conduct negotiations. It might be really, really challenging. So speaking about choosing a partner for your business, you have to come to the country, you have to meet face to face, you have to participate in different exhibitions, you have to talk to the government and governmental bodies, because all of this has to do with tenders and other procedures. So when it gets to certain types of products, well, in our case, with respect to certain projects, we started working closely in 2015. And this is still ongoing. There was a Russian company that visited Egypt for more than 100 times ever since 2015. So it's very, very challenging. It's not that easy to achieve something. Well, Nikolai, thank you very much. Thank you. So, dear exporters, we have this business mission in the online format. Of course, if you see that further steps can be made, you have to make another step to meet the other party face to face. Okay, we have a question from Sibirina company. Does the Egyptian market require certification for cosmetics? If yes, then what kind of certification? Well, as for cosmetics and medical goods and products, no doubt, it's a must. It's not an if, it's something that you must have. We know that US and European certificates are accepted, and from some other countries as well. As for Russian certificates, they're not accepted here. Moreover, you have to submit not only certificates, but other documents, and you have to register in the Export-Import Control Office. So there are a lot of requirements to do that. Should you require more information, you can go to our website and you can find more information there or contact us. Well, thank you very much, Nikolai. One more question, briefly, very briefly. Will there be any visa support arranged for different participants? Well, at the moment, Egypt does not require a visa to visit Egypt. You may have a tourist visa for 1 month, but as for working visas, well, yes, we intend to provide support in this area as well in the future. Well, thank you very much. Well, actually, we have plenty of questions for you, which is great news. One last question. What's going on the simulation and educational market? Geotar company has decided to ask you that. So anything on that? Actually, this is quite interesting. This is a very interesting area. And the Ministry of Education has been looking into it for quite some time. And I can say that the market is there. It's an open market. So on our part, we'd be happy to help, support. We know that a lot of companies visit Egypt for this very purpose. And I know that this area is developing really well, and we'd be happy to help once again. Well, Nikolai, thank you very much. So, dear participants, contact information of the trade mission can be found in our chart. And Nikolai was talking about the website of the trade mission, so you're more than welcome to visit this website. You can find all the information you might need, contact information, email, phone numbers. So Nikolai, thank you very much. And I'm sure everyone would agree that we now are very much interested in visiting Egypt and working with Egypt because we see plenty of opportunities. It's not only about the sea and leisure. So let's move to another African country, Algeria. Well, the structure is a little different from Egypt, so the picture is going to be slightly different. So I'm happy to give floor to our speaker, Ivan Nalic, trade representative of the Russian Federation in Algeria. He's going to talk about current state of trends of the Russian-Algerian trade and economic cooperation. Ivan, over to you. Good morning, colleagues, or good afternoon. I think it would be possible to share my screen so that I can share my presentation. Just a second. Let me do that. Can you see my presentation? Yes, everything's great. We can see your presentation, Ivan. Well, and I hope you can see me as well. Yes, yes. So, good afternoon, colleagues. My name is Ivan Nalic. I'm the trade representative in Algeria. So, Algeria, why Algeria? We know that this is one of the biggest countries in Africa. The territory is one of the biggest. The number 4 economy in terms of GDP, and it's the number 2 partner of the Russian Federation, $3 billion in 2020. Well, it used to be almost 5 billion before 2020. I must say that Algeria is a net importer of goods and services, well, mostly goods and products. We know that the acquisition of different products, for example, food products amount to 7-9 billion, ferrous metals and different technical products, $8-10 billion. As for ferrous metals and respective products, $2 billion. Of course, there's a need for diversification, for the upgrade, for changes but I'm going to talk about this a little later in my presentation. So what do we need to take into account when we deal with Algeria? Well, there are certain peculiarities, and Algerian economics very much depend on oil and gas. It's 22% of GDP, and unfortunately, in certain cases, we see that public monopoly is dominating, and I'm talking about oil and gas, energy, electricity, railways, communication, and all that. And of course, it means that we need to somehow work with public companies, and it means tenders, relevant procedures, terms of reference. All of this requires additional work, pre-qualification, you name it. All of this is not that easy to arrange, to go through. Sometimes it's very challenging to do this directly. So oftentimes there's a local partner, the middleman. And the trade mission is there to support and help you find such a partner. And for Russian companies, well, to be generally interested in working with Algeria, to do that, to ensure that the trade mission is monitoring different industries and areas on a regular basis. And we later publish this information on our website. And exporters can monitor relevant platforms on their own. But you have to subscribe to do that. But if you need more information, you can contact the trade mission if you're interested in participating in Algerian tenders. What else? There's one other thing. If it's not public sector, then there's private sector, which is much easier. Well, the market is a little smaller, but it's much more flexible. So what do you have to take into account when you are trying to understand what needs to be done and what are the next steps on the market?
В Алжире существуют основные три ставки таможенных пошлин.
You need to know what are the customs fees. They vary from 30 to 70% and up to 120, up to 30%. Plus, you need to have to pay some extra fees, additional customs fees, primarily on agricultural products. And this is driven by Algeria's desire to support its local manufacturers and producers. Plus, there are certain additional requirements, environmental fees, and requirements for food products that have to meet halal requirements. And whenever you need specific details, depending on what kind of product you want to sell, you can inquire what are the specific things you need to have in mind. European suppliers have certain advantages because they have a treaty of association signed between Algeria and the European Union, signed a couple of years ago, and that means that many goods can be shipped and supplied to Egypt without any customs duties that would be levied on them. Plus, exporters cannot pay, or rather importers of exporting products cannot pay advance payments. It cannot exceed 15% at least. And that is something that has to do with counter guarantees, restrictions. The only case where advance payments may be made is if an Algerian company has an account within the foreign jurisdictions. Plus, there is no such thing as a direct wire transfer, most commonly used method is either the letter of credit or cash
Почему это сделано?
collection.
Алжирское законодательство
And that's the way the law of Algeria works. We try to figure out why that is the case, but
таким образом для Алжира, но,
that's how things are.
скажем
So
так,
that is a limitation on
российских экспортеров.
how things
Если
work in Algeria. And if an Algerian company has an account within a foreign jurisdiction, it's easier for them to send a direct wire transfer as a payment for a product, for example. Let's talk about various entryways to the market of Algeria. Local exhibitions are regional, they're not global.
в таких отраслях, как
But
сельхоз,
in certain areas, such as agriculture or agricultural machinery,
без участия в местных выставках,
food products,
в этом году планируется
you have to participate in such fairs if you want to export to Algeria. This year, there will be the following exhibitions that will take place: DJAS, Agra, and NEPAC, and others. And it's a must for Russian companies to participate in these exhibitions if they want to enter the market of Algeria. We also know from our experience that companies from Algeria meet their Russian or potential Russian counterparts at events like this. At least that had been the case prior to the pandemic. And at Gulfood, at the United Arab Emirates, they would often make such contacts, and in France and in Germany, of course. Plus, there are business missions that is used widely as a tool. Most of them are now in online, happening in the online format, but prior to the pandemic, they had been a part of various business missions of separate or individual Russian companies or multiple business missions of Russian companies in Algeria. Another way to go to the market in Algeria is via online marketing, where you would communicate with your local partners remotely. But as Nikolai said earlier, it works that way in Egypt and it works this way in Algeria. You have to be present, so to speak, on the ground here. You have to be in constant contact with your local partners. You cannot really do business by correspondence. And if you send a letter once a month, that's not going to produce you the desired result. And of course, the trade mission is here to help Russian partners in any each way they need our help, including support for business missions. We help them with translation and interpretation services. You need to keep in mind that French is the language of choice in Algeria. English is not as widely used, but you have to keep that in mind. Speaking about promising exports, that includes, of course, agriculture, cereal crops,
возможности для экспорта пшеницы.
and the opportunities for export of wheat are somewhat limited, but Algeria has modulated its expectations for Russian wheat, and that has opened up opportunities for further supplies. And the requirements on Russian wheat were a little bit more stringent. Just a while ago, they have been made a little bit softer, and now Russia can supply grain, in particular wheat, to Algeria, because it's one of the top importers of grain. And of course, you can talk about ready-made products, cereal products, milk powder, confectionery industry products, meat and meat products. And of course, medicine is another promising area, both as a service the services of opticians are quite in demand in Algeria, and locals sometimes have to travel abroad to get the right services. And of course, it includes medical equipment. As for other promising areas, that includes oil and gas products, but you have to keep in mind that the market is monopolized by Sonatrach, the government-owned companies, the largest company in Africa. It also includes such products as metals, products of the chemical industry, mining industry, services and products. And of course, promising areas are not limited by the areas I've just outlined. Our partners are interested in expanding their exports to the market of Algeria. They can come to us, and if their product is competitive and if the price is right, which is very important, if the customs duties are appropriate, then I don't see why they would not be able to have success. And that includes household chemical products, hygiene products, and whatnot. As for our activities at the trade mission, I would like to say that what we do includes information, support, analytical work. We study the local economy, various trends underpinning its further development, and of course, we provide this information to Russian exporters. This also includes supporting visits, video services, conference services, interpreting and linguistic services, and we hope that once the pandemic is over, Russian companies will be more active as participants of various trade fairs and shows. And of course, we help our partners resolve issues with their existing contracts. Even if you have a signed contract, issues may come up in terms of interpretation of the contracts and terms of delivery or terms of payment, and we help Russian companies figure out all of these nuances. Plus, we are trying to work on our website and use social media to disseminate information about Russia and about Russian products and advance interest in Russia and about Russia in Algeria. Speaking about our success stories, I'd like to mention that this year, Algeria became the first country that got the very first shipment of the Sputnik V vaccine. That was very important for them. In terms of wheat, our trade mission was quite active in ensuring that we could have the restrictions mitigated. We are also helping Russian suppliers with pre-qualification of their products as suppliers for food products, and we mostly help companies that are involved in agriculture, power, and others. That is briefly all I had to report to you. If you have any further questions, please feel free to ask them right now, or you can contact us later using our email address. You have all of our contact details on the website, or you can telephone us, and we'll be happy to help you with any issues that you may have. It will certainly take time, but those who have worked with our trade mission know that we are always happy to help in any each way we can. And one more thing that I want to drive home is that although Russian companies tend to participate more actively in certain sets of fairs and exhibitions, such as agricultural fairs, you need to be mindful that there are areas where you have to participate, because that is the only way to promote your products. Thank you very much, Ivan, for your great presentation. They're asking now whether your presentation can be made available online, or whether you can provide a link to your presentation. Yes, that's the reason why I prepared it. It's available for use. Hope you can see me. I wanted to stop sharing my screen. I hope that worked. You no longer see me, right? We can see you now. Everything is great. Yes, it's going to be available probably on your website or on the website of the REC. The presentation will be placed on the cloud, and then we'll just give the participants a link to that presentation. Yes, of course, you can do that. And if you have any follow-up questions, you can ask them later. There are questions that have arrived, but since we are constrained time-wise, please be brief with your answers. And we're a little bit behind schedule already. So, can your mission provide information about deposits of natural stone in the country? Yes, we can, but it will take some time. And that will require us to meet with the locals. And that's because not a lot of this information is available publicly. Ivan has provided his contact details. If you have further questions, please send them directly to Ivan. Is the labeling on the goods, such as tags on the bags, a mandatory requirement? Or can you staple the tags to your bags? I'm not ready to give you the answer right away. I can work on this, but you need to have to label your products in Arabic. In any case. Okay, Ivan has partially answered your question, but I will write this down as a question, and you can always send us a direct question using our email address to know who it is coming from directly, and then we'll give you another proper answer. Is Algeria now closed for travelers from foreign countries? Is it possible to travel to Algeria? We are working on this on a case-by-case basis. A delegation is expected to arrive, but it's not easy, and visas are hard to come by, at least these days. There will be several exhibitions this year. Maybe there will be some easier procedures starting this fall. And on our website and on our Facebook account, we are making announcements about any changes in this policy in Algeria. So we'll keep you posted. Thank you very much. Do you have any information regarding what particular types of confectionery products are in demand in Algeria? Anything that is of good quality, cookies, chocolates are very much in demand. As for muesli or cereals, I don't know whether they are considered to be part of the range of confectionery products, but there was recently a request from a local Algerian company regarding what can be supplied that is based on grain crops, because they export those in Algeria. A question from Olga Utkina. There will be a presentation that will be made available with Ivan Nalich's contact details. And one more question, speaking about payment terms. Importers from Egypt almost always insist on the following terms of payment. Can we get your support using TT approach? Can you provide a further clarification? You said that you are not allowed to get advance payments by law, right? Ivan, by law, your advance payment may not exceed 15% of your foreign contract. And on top of that, the company that gets the advance payment would need to issue a counter guarantee. So therefore, Algerians do not work with prepayments or advance payments, and unless these are the companies that have an account, let's say in France or another foreign jurisdiction. but you cannot send more than 15% of an advance payment from Algeria directly. What do you think about promoting black caviar, sturgeon caviar, on the market of Egypt? Is the market ready for sturgeon caviar? The market, the niche in the market is ready for that, but it's not a tourist destination, major tourist destination. It will be a very niche product. Is there any requirement for novel IT solutions? At what stage are they with that? Well, there is a demand for those. How ready the country for digitalization is, that is another question. But there have been cases where Russian IT solutions were pricier than products offered by other competitors. And you have to keep in mind that most likely we'll have to deal with the government buyers, and that will have to go through some tender bidding procedures. And there have been cases where banking services needed IT solutions and they turned out to be too expensive coming from Russia. I don't know, questions keep pouring in and we are really behind schedule, but may I offer something? Maybe you can just assemble, gather those questions and send those questions on to me via email with an indication of who they're coming from. We do not quite understand sometimes who they're coming from. In YouTube chat, our users are doing this. They're sending us questions. Well, maybe you can post our contacts on YouTube. We have put a link to your presentation on YouTube, and that's where you have your contact details. So please advise them to send their questions directly on to us, to the Trade Mission. And please do that, and Mr. Nalic will answer your questions. What kind of medical exhibitions can be considered to be the key ones in the country? Our company is a supplier of lab equipment. Can you say specifically which exhibition is the #1 exhibition? I cannot give you the answer from the top of my head. And the most recent one took place in 2019. There are 2 exhibitions. One of them has to do with medical furniture and the other one sells medical equipment. One of them is in Algiers, the other is in Oran. Both take place in spring, and the company can look that up, but we can also provide a direct answer to that question. I cannot give you the answer from the top of my head.
Okay, so Yuri, please contact the Trade Mission and you'll get your response. Well, Ivan, thank you very much. This has been a very interesting presentation. We learned a lot about Algeria, and we now have your contact information, and I really hope that in the near future there'll be more contracts and agreements signed. Thank you. Well, we are behind this schedule, but dear speakers, dear participants, there are a lot of questions. As for speakers, please try to be brief, and there'll be more time left for Q&A session. So the next country that we would like to visit is Morocco. And here we are going to have a great opportunity to listen to the 2 speakers and learn more about bilateral relationship between our countries. So I would like to give floor to Ambassador Valerian Shvaev, and we'll have one more speaker, the trade representative, Artem Tnamdrushvili. So Mr. Shvaev, hello. So what are the perspectives of the bilateral relationship? The floor is yours. Good morning, colleagues, or good afternoon. I hope you can hear me well. Yes, we can see you, we can hear you. Please continue. So once again, good morning, dear participants. First of all, let me express my gratitude for organizing such conference and for this opportunity for 2 representatives of missions here in Morocco to have the floor. So Just a couple of things from me. I'd like to share something about the issue in question. What can be done to promote Russian export and Russian companies here in Morocco? Well, actually, Morocco is quite an attractive partner. And it's not by chance, and it has been like that for quite some time. That is probably because of the Soviet heritage. And let me explain what I'm talking about. Back in the days when we were in this Cold War, there was quite a number of obstacles. But back in the 60s of the 20th century, we had quite a really good, mutually beneficial relationship. And back then, in the 60s, in the 70s, this helped us promote bilateral cooperation. I'm not talking about well-known famous oranges and other things, but we know that quite a number of major projects has been implemented in energy sector, and some of the projects are still there and open new doors and windows of opportunities still today. So this is something that the trade representative is going to talk about later in his presentation. But some obstacles and some things were gone in the 90s of the 20th century. So it has created a new platform for further development of our relationship. And we can see some results. Egypt and Algeria, representatives from respective embassies and trade missions are present here. Of course, they're the biggest partners, but Morocco is right behind them in terms of figures. And another thing that I wanted to mention that might be of interest for our exporters, Moroccans are saying that Morocco is the gate to Africa. Well, this is justified because what they have in humanitarian area, in economics and other things, other areas, they've been quite successful in all of that. But mostly we're talking about the western part, French-speaking Africa. And whenever we talk to each other, whenever we communicate, they offer their services, well, if I may put it this way. And they're doing it to promote Russian goods and services, certain projects, so that jointly we could do much more and move to sub-Saharan region and other African countries. And here seems to me you can see at least one window of opportunity for promoting our products in a wide sense. Well, I was happy to hear that our companies are very much interested in making further steps and entering this market, but I think you need to do much more to make it actually happen. Another point that I wanted to voice here to mention, and I would concur with my colleague from Egypt and from Algeria as well. Of course, we have some red lines and red tapes, and we have some public sector domination, and certain things are quite unusual for us. However, the infrastructure is quite impressive, and the relationship with partners from the US and from European countries is there. This kind of relationship is there, and you have to prepare yourself for quite robust competition. So this political background, which is quite positive, by the way, but it doesn't guarantee any success in promoting your product without being very competitive. That's what you have to keep in mind. Moroccans are actively, well, at least they're trying, and they've been quite successful in that. Moroccans are trying to enjoy and use different technologies, methods in terms of business and in terms of certification and equipment. And speaking about economic activity, you don't have to rely on traditions that much, because you have to prepare yourself for something different, something that you don't expect, something that you would rather see in France and other countries. European Union is offering quite a number of projects, so in this sense, the country is quite prepared and well developed. So actually, that's what I wanted to tell you. And once again, I would like to thank the organizers for this opportunity, and I would like to wish you every success in all your endeavors. So I would like to give floor to my colleague from the trade mission, Artem. Well, thank you, Ambassador. One question to you, if I may. Of course, of course. What would be your one main recommendation for the company that for the first time in their history would enter the negotiations with the Moroccan party? Well, I might repeat myself, but the main recommendation would be whenever you decide to enter the negotiations with the Moroccans, don't be confused. Actually, it happens. Unfortunately, it happens. I'm telling you this, judging from my experience. You don't have to think or imagine that you meeting a traditionalist from the Middle Ages. It's not like that. No. You have to be prepared that you'll be talking to people with really good education and a different mindset. Okay, thank you very much, Ambassador. Thank you for your report and thank you for your time. We understand you are very busy. Well, thank you. Thank you. So, dear exporters, Morocco awaits. And as Ambassador has just mentioned, this is very important. This market is very promising. And now I would like to give floor to our next speaker, Artem Senamdrishvili, the trade representative. So, Artem, what are the perspectives for Russian export? The floor is yours. Well, thank you very much. First of all, I would like to thank all the organizers of this event. I'm really happy to see such distinguished speakers and participants, and I see that there's a lot going on at the moment. And what can I tell you? Of course, Egypt, Morocco, Algeria, and South African Republic are the most active participants of this business, of this area. As for Morocco, I'm happy to say that as for the business community, there's a lot of appetite for more development, for more activity, and we are getting a lot of requests from different companies that wish to enter Moroccan markets. I'm sure that we're about to see the first record, because we're now getting more requests, even more than in 2020, and it's great. It's good news. And I'm happy to say that some Russian companies are even capable and able to squeeze out other companies from this market, for example, French companies, to give you a taste of what it's like, what the market is like. We've conducted a monitoring, and we can see that the leading positions belong to equipment, aviation, transport, chemical, pharmaceutical, paper, forestry, ferrous metals, and other industries. And we see some significant growth in food products. And these are the areas where we see more and more goods and products delivered. And this has been supported by the statistics that we've collected, and we see that there are a lot of developments on the Russian market as well. I would like to say a few words about some obstacles, some interesting things and small things that are characteristic of the Moroccan market. But you have to bear this in mind. These small things matter. So one of such small things is when you would like to enter Moroccan market, you have to have an agreement. And Morocco has agreements and contracts with 60 plus countries. That includes US, European countries, and many others. And this means that there are no import fee to be paid and customs fees. Unfortunately for Russia, it's not the case. Last year, customs fees went up and the situation has slightly deteriorated. So now it's 40%. And Russian producers and manufacturers, they said that it would have a significant impact on their relationship and cooperation with the kingdom. So one of the ideas is to have joint facilities or entities on the territory of Morocco. We are already looking into that, and these companies will have more benefits than anybody else. And we're talking about subsidies and some benefits when you supply and deliver spare parts. And there'll be no fees paid, no duty paid when you supply products to other places. Another requirement is Moroccan certification. You have to have relevant certificates. Unfortunately, Eurasian certificates are not accepted in Morocco, so those certificates have to meet requirements, and sometimes it takes months or years, and I'm talking about medical and pharmaceutical industries. That is why a great help would be, and a good idea would be, to have technical European Union certificates. This will help localize and speed up things a great deal. Another important thing that you have to understand that Morocco is an image market, and the kingdom is like an older brother for other African countries. So oftentimes we see that if you succeed in Morocco, Russian companies have more opportunities on the Western African territory. So taking into account investment relationship between the two countries, Morocco and Russia, you can see that a lot is going on there, and there are a lot of opportunities. Oftentimes, we, the trade mission, have been helping different companies supply products to the African continent. So Moroccans saw that, and oftentimes they are now offering their help. So don't ignore that. This is a good thing. As for the future, the potential, I think it's huge. And Morocco is one of the few countries where export has gone up, not down. And quite recently, in the last quarter, we've seen that the dynamics has improved even further, and the growth amounted to 24%. This is the best indicator among all African countries. We're mostly talking about organics, sulfur fertilizers, plastics, non-organic, and ferrous metals. I think a month or two ago, we had a first offline event. This has been a really good event involving St. Petersburg, and we saw some Russian companies that were very interested in all that. And I must say that the Moroccan market is hungry for face-to-face meetings. There's a lot of appetite for that. They really want more meetings like that. I think we had 80 negotiations with the Moroccan party, and with quite a number of the companies that participated in those negotiations, we've been in contact and are still actively working. Another sector would be food products. Apart from grain, we have really good results in terms of oils and other types of food, confectionery, and other things. And actually, quite some time ago, no, quite recently, we had a respective event. Despite all the duties and fees, we've been quite successful. I don't want to go into details right now, but we're talking about major deliveries. So high duties and fees are not an obstacle, because at the moment we can see that despite all of that, with the right commercial approach, Russian products and goods have really good chance of entering the market. Quite recently, we've been approached by a Bashkirian company. They offered to supply honey. Moroccans have entertained this proposal, and now they have already contracts and agreements in place, and this product is being successfully supplied to the market. I would like to draw attention of our exporters that import is developing, especially bio products for healthy life is developing. So at the moment, we're talking about 2.5%. And Moroccans are really interested in buying this. Speaking about food products, and I already mentioned this, that today in Morocco, we already have the first internet shop in Tanger. This is Russian shop, and we've been flooded with questions. Where do they find it? How do they order? How to taste? And last week, one of the shops in Rabat, a network, have approached us with a proposal to open a section of Russian products.
On top of that, after consulting with the networks and chain stores in Morocco, we learned that they want to have demo days of Russian products. And we have been discussing this. I hope this is going to help advancing Russia's products and goods. Speaking about other areas, IT and telecoms seem to be very promising. This is really developing explosively here in Morocco, despite the traditional influence of France and other Western countries here. I believe that the solutions that are offered by Russian companies can be in demand. There's been a lot of offers from Russia, and their numbers are growing, and we want to dedicate even more attention to this. And this way, we're going to be able to kill two birds with the same stone, promote Russian products, and also jump on that bandwagon of IT processes in Morocco. And as for energy sources, that is another important area. Speaking about renewable energy sources, I'd like to say that we can combine Russian technologies and Russian products, which is something that is gaining momentum, and the realities of Morocco, because Morocco is now positioning itself as a hub of renewable energy sources technologies, and cooperation is growing with all countries in Europe. And there are a lot of programs now that promote such products and make them more usable in everyday lives. In addition, I would like to speak about the various marketplace channels to enter the market of Morocco. The popularity of those is growing, especially now, and the opportunities that they offer are also growing and expanding. And we are users on the key platforms, and we are monitoring offers that may present interest to Russian exporters. Some Russian companies have already been using services of such marketplaces and have been able to achieve good results. Dear colleagues, my presentation is almost over. I can see that together with the ambassador, we could get this event back on track in terms of its timing. And of course, we are committed to providing our utmost support to all of the companies that are interested in these services. And you can always send your questions to our email address or use our social media and use the services of the Ministry for Industry and Trade. And once again, thank you to the organizers. Thank you very much, Artyom. A couple of questions for you, if I may. They have come from our listeners and viewers. We have a lot of producers of food products. They are part of this business mission. So a few clarification questions that they have. Do Moroccans like such products as sunflower seeds and peanuts? Is this a major part of the market, or is it just a niche market? Yes, this is something that is sought after, but I wouldn't say that that is a very major part of the market. For those who produce sunflower seeds and peanuts, I don't think that they can count on major volumes of trade. Yes, we are prepared to get in contact with such companies that produce these products, and we could work on this. We have not yet received a request regarding sunflower seeds and peanuts, but we are prepared to establish contact. All right, Artyom, then with your permission, we will make your contacts available, the contact details of the trade mission, so that the exporters could write to you directly. What can you say about deliveries of bread, fermented bread drinks, and other drinks? This topic is not an easy one. We have thought about the deliveries of this fermented bread drink, the kvass, and non-alcoholic drinks. The customs duties on such products, carbonated water is generally under high customs duties, and the traditional producers of water are available in the country. They do produce all of these things. As for marketing of Russian products, such as kvass and the others, it is something that would be quite difficult to promote, given the high customs duties. I remember that there have been options for the development of this track. We have offered certain solutions to our partners, and we are ready to share what we have done already in that regard to potential exporters. They will take a look at the cross-section of the market that is their target market, and then they will decide whether they want to go to this market. And the final question, are there any promises for B2G construction business, including using Russian materials? Again, as for the construction business itself, we have not yet looked into that directly, but the government invites major contracts, and they all done through a process of bidding, through a tender process, and that goes for any government contract. They're all tender-based. If we are talking about metallurgical products, we have already done some work in that regard, and that cooperation has been ongoing and it has been quite successful. We have been able to establish very good contacts with the government agencies of Morocco and also with key contractors that work on the local market. Therefore, there are opportunities for developing this kind of cooperation. Thank you so much, Artyom, dear speakers. Questions keep coming in, and there are more questions that are made available. Of course, go ahead. But, dear speakers, you can shorten your presentation and leave more time for questions. But let us ask you a few more questions. Can a Moroccan TV operator or a platform be interested in Russian TV products? Very briefly, if I may. Well, you know what? Just a few days ago, we got a request like that. Just the other day, there was one offer regarding a potential TV channels, and we are trying to get our arms around this. And I don't have an answer right now. We have some meetings scheduled at the relevant ministry and at the associations that are in these markets, and we will do it in a step-by-step manner. And if there are offers that are coming from the companies that are other than those two that have already approached us, we can append that to the original two proposals and work on that. Olga, if you'd like to, you can look up Artyom's email address, which we've published, and you could then contact them to approach the market. Are there local producers of cakes and biscuits and tarts in Morocco? Of course. There are about 15 relatively large producers of these confectionery types of products. There is also about 6,000 plus smaller producers that make such goods. In that sense, Morocco is trying to protect itself, protect its market using customs duties. In some cases, this customs duty can be up to 40%. Thank you very much, Artyom. I apologize for interrupting you. We have to speed up. You've also said that the digital world is developing very actively in Morocco. A couple of questions on that topic. Can you say anything about security equipment for perimeter protection or border protection or cybersecurity? Can you say anything about those types of products? Of course, if you want a brief answer, there is interest in these kinds of products, and a while ago we had looked into this, and we could continue doing that. We could get in contact with these producers of these products and work on that topic further. Evgeny Rusanov and the others who asked this question, you could write directly to the trade mission, to Artyom specifically. And the very last question from Sibirina, you mentioned marketplaces that are actively working in Morocco. Could you recommend one or two marketplaces to our exporters if this is not a breach of some kind of, or if it's not a conflict of interest, or could be considered advertisement? No problem with that. There are marketplaces that are focusing on different topics and different products. The most developed ones are the ones in the area of agriculture, jewelry, furniture, and consumer goods, plus construction materials and services. Just recently, a month ago, a FISSET marketplace was started on industrial goods. Could you write down the names of several marketplaces here in the Zoom chat, and we will then broadcast them to all exporters? And I will do this during the next presentation. Thank you very much. And we will be looking forward to getting your list of marketplaces. Many thanks. Well, thank you. The market of Morocco is growing. It's a competitive market. It's a big market too. And I think the exporters can draw the right conclusions. Thanks a lot, Artyom, for your presentation. The next country we're going to look at is going to be the Republic of South Africa and the Kingdom of Lesotho. We're going to have two speakers from the Russian Federation. It is my great pleasure to invite Ilya Rogachev to the microphone. He is the ambassador of Russia to the Republic of South Africa and Kingdom of Lesotho. He will be followed by the head of the trade mission in South Africa. Mr. Rogachev, we know that South Africa is the most economically developed country in Africa. What are the outlooks of Russian exports to South Africa, given the marketing situation in the country? And I would like to say that we're going to have a representative of the South African business community speaking later on. So that'll give us another look at the future of Russian exports to the market. But now it is our pleasure to give the floor to Ambassador Rogachev. Hello. Good afternoon, dear participants. Can you hear me? Yes, we can hear you and see you quite well. I'd like to share with you my view of a non-professional on this topic that you've just outlined. And I would give Maxim Breyev an opportunity to show his professionalism in this topic, in this field. So I'll try to describe the advantages and some drawbacks that exist here on the export market in South Africa when it comes to exporting Russian products to this market. First of all, I'd like to say that the situation is kind of paradoxical. Our export potential is quite enormous, and the trade volume yet is quite negligible compared to overall Russia's trade volumes. It's less than $1 billion in 2020. It was shrinking in 2020, and it is still shrinking in 2021, unfortunately. And there are a lot of things that could be of interest to us in this country. Yes, it is one of the top 3 most developed countries in Africa, together with Egypt and Nigeria. Although this country is the 41st country in the world in terms of its size of the GDP. What can I say about Russian exporters' potential here? The mining industry is one of the key industries in South Africa. Extraction of minerals is what they're focused on, because they have huge deposits of minerals, and things are quite well with that in Russia, but there are a number of items that Russia doesn't have because of the breakup of the Soviet Union. Manganese is one of them, and South Africa is one of the leading countries in extracting platinum group metals, gold and diamonds. And Lesotho also has good opportunities there. Chromium, manganese, palladium are other minerals that can be extracted here. Speaking about high-tech industries, I'd like to mention a few that are well-developed, well-advanced, and I could go on listing their achievements. That is something that our industry could envy. Just to give you a few examples, you have high-tech production in avionics, optics, composite manufacturing, medical equipment building, and some nuclear technologies that are well developed in the country. Speaking about medicine, it is a well-developed industry here, and let us just remember that the very first heart transplant operation was made in 1967 in South Africa. And since then, the country has moved on and has made further advances. I wanted to highlight where we could complement each other. I'm speaking about Russia and South Africa. But of course, there's the element or the factor of sanctions that can be an impediment, but they could be overcome with the help of our foreign partners and through the use of more advanced forms of cooperation with our South African partners. And of course, there's a third element that one has to keep in mind, as our ambassador in Morocco said. South Africans also consider themselves to be the gateway to Africa. Maybe someone had said that before, but let's not try to compete whose gate is broader, wider. We have several gates, one in the north, one in the west, one in the south, and so on. But it's a gateway to entering third countries' markets. Bilateral trade is, of course, important, and you can cooperate here with various companies in South Africa. And by doing that, you can then access markets in Africa, and not only Africa, because South Africa maintains very good relations with Europe, Latin America, and South and Southeastern Asia. How could you be more proactive in developing our relations with South Africa economically? I'd like to emphasize that you should follow this experience. Our business people come here quite often and they say, buy this plane from me, or buy this submarine, or 100 locomotives. But this is not going to work. These are finished products, and best not go into this with questions like this, primarily because the South African market is fairly well saturated with these finished products. You have here lots of machine building companies from other countries that they had established their presence there for quite some time. They are quite comfortable here, and they know what's what. They are well versed in the art of doing business here, and therefore heavy engineering products are well present here, well represented here. But you can do this by cooperating with the others.
So we think it makes sense to develop cooperation so that it would capture something more sophisticated. We do have a lot of Western companies here, majors. Almost all majors are here. Well, Mercedes, for example, South Korean companies are already here, and they have assembly plants here. And they're quite big. They are assembling and manufacturing hundreds of cars, and something that the manpower, the labor force is not skilled enough, but actually it's not true. And one other thing, one of the advantages, South African Republic is our BRICS partner. And no doubt this is mutually beneficial in political area. And we have a lot of other opportunities. We can fund different projects. For example, the new development BRICS Bank is helping a great deal. So at the same time, I would like to mention that there are a lot of challenges that you have to bear in mind if you want to implement your project, if you want to invest in South African Republic. Well, one of the obstacles that would be saturation that I already mentioned. This is a historical thing. Another point would be more than half of the South African population is beyond the poverty line. So they are earning very, very little money. Even though we're talking about 60 million plus population in the country, the demand is quite narrow and the population is not capable of paying. There's only one small segment. So the population is unable to pay for goods and services. Another factor would be very robust competition. We already have quite a number of companies present here. And once again, this is a historical thing. Chinese, Japanese, American corporations are widely represented across the country. So no one wants anybody else here on the market. It's not that easy to get in. Another factor would be the need to know the local specifics, traditions, and how to talk to, who to talk to, how to do business and other things. So one of the must-have factors that you have to bear in mind is to include quite a number of provisions in the legislation to ensure
представленности местного африканского, индийского цветного населения.
Compliance with the local requirements. And I'm talking about requirements for local population management, so on and so forth. In English, it's called Black Economic Empowerment. This is broad-based Black economic empowerment. So this is positive discrimination, to put it in simpler terms. So this is an attempt to correct the historical discrimination and to right the historical wrongs. So thanks to this policy, a lot of things can be things. And this has to do with the regime of apartheid and many other historical things. And those companies who have been here for dozens of years now, they are well aware of that, including former colonial countries. So they managed to adapt, to adjust, and follow this policy. As for other countries, BRICS partners, for example, that are only about to enter or have just started entering this market, this may seem to them quite a burden. This might be challenging, but there are no obstacles that cannot be overcome. So we are doing everything possible to make things happen. But to turn the process into a bilateral one, we have to have more information. We need more information, and we need to understand how to make business communities of the both countries to be more aware and to have more information to promote their business. So there's a lot to ponder over. A lot of work is ahead of us, but I think it's quite clear. Why do we need money? Why do we need to work hard? Why do we need all of this? Because the potential is colossal. Thank you. Ilya, thank you very much. Thank you for your presentation. I have one question to you, if I may. What do you think is the biggest mistake made by Russian exporters when they first enter the negotiations with South African Republic? Well, I don't feel comfortable speaking about it, because let's say we have companies from Chelyabinsk, Novosibirsk, And when they travel through Dubai, Istanbul, and other countries and other cities, they start asking a lot of questions. They start talking to their South African counterparties. But actually, there's no need for these questions. They can find this information easily on the internet. You have to do your homework before you hop on the plane. So that's point number one. Point number two. What are your goals? What are your objectives? What do you actually want? Once again, this is very practical. To put it in simpler terms, as I said, we have representatives of major companies. They deal with high added value of that products, and they're trying to sell that products for hundreds of thousands of dollars. And we're talking about sophisticated equipment and the like, but the local market is unable to actually take this. So you have to act differently. Different kind of cooperation is required. You have to have some missing elements. So I think this is the most important thing. This has a lot of opportunities in it. Because if you come to the country and you try to talk someone to buy something, this is the biggest mistake. Well, thank you very much, Ambassador. Thank you. And I'm sure, and I really hope that all the exporters will take this country very seriously and would not take what you've said lightly. And I really hope that the situation would improve in the future. And as I said, there's another speaker from South African Republic. Maxim, over to you, the trade representative. So Maxim, over to you. We can see you and hear you really well. Mr. Burev, so I would like to ask you to stick to the 10 minutes time, please. Well, I don't think I have anything to add because I concur what you've said. All of this is very material and everything is very important for those who intend to enter the South African market. In our trade mission, we deal with export mostly, and despite the 10 minutes that I have, still I would like to say a few words about the country. This is a very unique country, and there are a lot of languages and nationalities, official languages, 11, well, including English. This is the business language used in business. There are a lot of industries represented in the country. And one other thing, as of today, South African Republic is one of the countries where science and other relevant areas like renewables and agriculture are developing really well and fast. You were talking about the gates to Africa. Well, the geographic position made South Africa a great hub. So it is a gate as well, in a sense. We have 8 major ports, good infrastructure, cross-border infrastructure. So if you enter this market, you enter the big African market. Coal, agricultural products are imported and exported, oil and petroleum products. Also there, China, US, and a number of European countries are the partners of the country. I'm monitoring export, so I can say that in 2020, import has gone down by 12%. You're absolutely right. You did say that $982 billion, this is 1.4% less than in 2019. However, certain things have gone up. This is the turnover, but as for import in general, this tells us quite a lot. Despite this situation, we can say that the potential for export is much bigger. Speaking about the bilateral trading, or if you look at the import stats of the country and globally, and actually you can find the statistics with respect to customs, and you can see that $2.2 billion, that's what we have between the two countries. And at the moment, South African Republic is number 32, number 35 in the global rating. As for export, the products that are exported is wheat, paper, and many others. Of course, Yugra, Volогодsky, Komi regions are the leaders in this area. Of course, we can supply mineral fertilizers, coal, machinery, agricultural equipment, exploration equipment, and many other things. These are the areas that can be developed further and have very promising futures. So I would agree with my colleagues who spoke before me. So to get more practical, I see that only 5 or 50 companies had a plan how to approach South African market. I would allow myself to say some general things that you have to bear in mind. Yes, this is Africa, but don't go crazy. You can't sell something small for a huge amount of money. There are very sophisticated and robust requirements. So you have to understand that. You have to understand why South African Republic is your target market. Your marketologists have to think about that. I don't think comfortable speaking about it, but still sometimes we see this happening. We don't need fuel. You don't need something that is applicable only in those countries that have winter. You don't have many other things because this country doesn't have this. Point number 2, you have to study really well all the technical and other requirements. For example, if you're talking about cars, you have to understand on which side the wheel is on. You have to understand the standards, certificates that you have to obtain. Don't refer or rely that much on Russian standards. Even if it's translated into good English, this doesn't work here. Even though we use English here, but what you are sending us, well, we are trying to understand, but we encourage you to send them in good English. You have to enjoy and use all the tools and mechanisms that you have. Do ask for help and support of different institutes. Quite recently, I visited Kamchatka and I was surprised by one of the organizations there. People are working there and trying to promote, well, quite unique Kamchatka products, and they are quite successful. As for advertisement and target groups, of course, you have to participate in exhibition, and you have to bear in mind all the factors relevant to this event. Exhibition is a big event, and if you want to be successful, if you want to take part, if you want to find partners, do contact us and we'd be more than happy to help you. If you want to do business in South African Republic, you have to rely on networking and personal contacts. Unfortunately, pandemic has done a lot of damage and we now can't meet face to face, which makes things more complex and complicated to a certain extent. So we are trying to adjust But you have to take into account that the legislation with respect to certification, licenses, this may be done by residents only. So unless you have a company of your own here, then you have to hire a local representative to help you with all that. Speaking about export and sales channels, no one knows all of this better than an exporter. Of course, trade mission cannot have competencies in all areas. So we can help you. We can provide some general information, or maybe we can provide you something else to help you start the process. We can help you with partners, but we would like you to send us the feedback, because this is really good for us, even if you didn't like something. When somebody is trying to rely on the trade mission too much, for example, when it gets to the partners, this is not really a good idea. So the first contact, you have to request the documents from your potential partner. You have to verify this information. You have to request information, certificates, documents. We'd be happy to help you. So do contact us. If you have to deal with the prepayment, so you have to go for certain tools and mechanisms that are there. When, for example, the payments are in dollars and the products are under sanctions, so you have to bear in mind that you'll have to deal with corresponding banks in the US. You can also use different terms for delivery, FOB or CIF, and you can ask for professional help, but do not offer FCA and other terms. Well, just as an example, because if you're talking about town Lesosibirsk, this is not a good idea. And my colleagues already mentioned this. The South African Republic market is very competitive. The regime of apartheid is gone, long gone, and after that, all the companies have rushed to the South African Republic. Russia was not amongst them, and if you remember that back then, the situation was a little different and we had slightly different priorities. So at the moment, the competition is very strong.
They have gone through this stage when you have to find the right balance between quality and price, and the focus of competition now is on good quality client service in the life cycle of a product. And therefore, South African buyers are quite capricious with a very specific mentality where they need to have a comprehensive solution for their needs. You should not try to sell them a microchip or a component of a product or a process. A South African client has a product and a service that they're happy with, and your most advanced microchip could probably improve their process, but how can it make their product or process much better for the consumer? Because the consumers would have to take efforts to implement or integrate your microchip into their process. Let's move on to other topics. Ilya has already spoken about this, but let me provide more specifics. South Africa is trying to involve the Black population to a greater extent in the economic activity that includes import substitution, localization of production, and priority is given to national suppliers when buying municipal procurement items, as opposed to other corporations. And therefore, exporters have to deal with certain restrictions, which should drive them to understand that they need to cooperate with the locals. And the sale of ready finished products is less promising, or is becoming increasingly less promising. And our exporters were offended by saying that we are not trying to help them. But I want to counter this by saying that we have been doing our best to help them, and I'm sure our embassy would support me in this, and I'm sure our ambassadors and trade missions in the North Africa would support our conclusions that we're making here. Any cooperation product is going to be more complex than a simple and straightforward export deal, and it will require a different level of investment, but that's how things are. Therefore, you need to have a local partner, and you start your acquaintance with the partner at the exhibition. You look each other in the eye. You can check each other's credibility and creditworthiness and their business acumen. And that would be a way to ensure that you can support the life cycle of your product in South Africa. I didn't want to scare you, dear exporters. There are cases that are success stories. That includes the production of electrotechnical equipment. One of the companies has been quite successful as a government contractor. Essence-Soft is another company that extracts from the video streams any dangerous poses. A person with an extended arm can be considered to be a person armed. And so you have to respond immediately to that. Transmesh Holding is another company that bought near Johannesburg a plant and is now repairing the rolling stock for the local railways, and not just for the South African customers, but you'd be surprised, but also for Australian ones, you may be surprised by this, for Sagro, that did it the right way by setting up its own subsidiary in South Africa that is promoting their products. And of course, Rosselmash, driven by practical reasons. How can you deliver a harvester in a container or on board of a ship, but you can disassemble them and put them in the crates, and that will allow you to ship two of them in place of the one assembled. So you deliver it here, and then they will be assembled back and sent to the consumer or the end customer. That completes my presentation. I'm ready to take your questions here or later on. If you send me a written query, I will now put the address and the email address of the trade mission here. Thank you very much. We will put this in the general chat. You mentioned that there have been success stories. I'd like to draw attention of Timur Baklanov, who asked a question about the system of cybersecurity in Morocco. See, there are cases like this in South Africa. Russian systems do get supplied here. And there was a similar question. Please tell us about sunflower seeds and peanuts. Is this popular? Is there a culture of consuming such products in South Africa? Here's what I would say in response. Speaking about sunflower seeds, the way we are used to seeing them on the Russian shelves in the supermarkets, probably not. As for sunflower, this is considered to be, I'm talking about the seeds, this is considered to be a raw material for the food processing industry. There is a very narrow niche on the market at ethnic stores, but I had not seen such sunflower seeds there. If necessary, we can go to those stores and search specifically for the sunflower seeds, but I'm sure we're not going to be able to find them. Well, on the one hand, this is an opportunity. Send us your offer and we'll make inquiries. All right. Thank you very much. Another question is from Biden Pro company. Dear Maxim, what about medical education in South Africa? Can you say anything about this? And what is the situation with the training equipment? This is a very specific area. I am aware that there are several medical schools at South African universities, and some of them are already in talks with Russian companies about exports of simulation medical equipment for training students. Okay, I understand, but if there is a direct inquiry, people can contact you directly. You can use the email address at the Trade Mission in South Africa, and I'm sure our colleagues at Trade Mission will answer. On the left-hand side of the webpage at our Trade Mission, you will see a menu which you need to press on to get to a specific item. What about the confectionery products? What is the culture of consuming sweets in South Africa? This culture in South Africa is well developed. People are consuming locally produced items or foreign brands, but most of that's local products. There's not a lot of imports on the markets, and here's why. If we're talking about imports of some confectionery products that are based on natural dairy products, that is a topic that is associated with getting separate permits, certificates, and other types of authorizations. So the market is out there, but it's a mostly local and domestic market. Olga Murzina is asking you, what can you say about the popularity of sorbet, marmalade, and others? Everything that I have already said about this. And the final question is your opinion. What is the time lag between the first contact you've made in South Africa and the very first contract made? I don't want you to think badly of me, but in some cases it can take up to 18 months or even 2 years. Russian participants do take part in exhibitions and fairs. People sometimes come without even having a booth. They walk around the exhibition, and from the time you make your first acquaintance to the time you write your first contract, at least 1.5 years would have to pass. The exporters, please ensure that you're ready for a long game, because this is a serious business. Thank you very much, Mr. Burev, and I would like to think that our exporters will take your advice very seriously, and we move on. And I do have to say that we are very seriously behind the schedule. We're going to have Q&A scheduled at the end of this meeting. We've asked already some of those questions, and we're still going to be behind. Dear colleagues, professional associations around the world are one of the growth drivers, representing the interests of their respective industries, and the Associations of Economic Cooperation with African States is an organization that combines efforts of major Russian companies. Again, trying to facilitate entry to the African markets, another stepping stone to opening the African market to Russian companies. It is my great pleasure to give the floor now to Anna Belyeva, Executive Managing Director at the Association of Economic Cooperation with African States. Ms. Belyeva has made a lot of her personal efforts to ensure that 2019 would see the very first Russia-Africa summit in Sochi. Ms. Belyeva, you have the floor. Thank you very much, Mr. Zhukovsky. Hello, everyone. Thank you for giving me the floor and the opportunity to speak. I think it's a great event that you're having now, organized by the Russian Expert Center. It's not the traditional business mission that allows us to meet specific partners abroad, but for Africa, this step is very important before you enter the market. You need to understand how to operate on that market. There are lots of nuances that you need to be aware of, and this sort of training conference, information-filled event that we're having today is a very right approach to that. Please allow me to try to save some time, and I will try to very briefly tell you about what we do. And considering that a lot has been said about the northern part of Africa and about South Africa, then maybe I will talk to you about the sub-Saharan Black Africa, because it's a very nuanced market, which is quite different from, let's say, Northern Africa. And it'll just take a moment for me to share my screen, and hopefully you can see my slides now. First of all, I'd like to say a couple of words about what our association is and what it's all about. Indeed, it is true that I personally and Mr. Zhukovsky were among those that took part in the very first Russia-Africa summit that took place in 2019. It was really a momentous event and a catalyst for the development of relations between Africa and Russia. Russia's image was shaped in a proper way, and the slogan was that Russia is back in Africa. And a decision was made that this was not going to be a one-off event, but instead is going to be a recurring event. And if those of you who are present here are not aware of this, I'd like to tell you that the next summit is going to take place next year, and it's going to be hosted by one of African nations this time. So it's given some momentum to the development of interest towards Africa and to a more practical agenda. And for the second summit, we expect a more hands-on items on the agenda, as opposed to general statements made at the very first summit. And physically, there were not a lot of contracts written back then, but this time we want to make it a very practical summit, driving the signing of contracts. And so our association was created as one of the outcomes of the very first summit. And the idea was to catalyze and incentivize business support for Russian businesses working across the entire African continent, including the Northern Africa and Sub-Saharan Africa. We work in very close contact with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and with the presidential administration. So far, we get this para-governmental support. And the members of the association are major business companies, the so-called flagship companies or locomotives of our drive towards Africa, those who already have contracts or projects in Africa, something that our heads of trade missions and ambassadors have already alluded to today. So we are trying to blaze the trail to the market together with the Russian businesses. And we would like to invite all of you to join us. If you are a Russian company that is interested in working in Africa, regardless of how big your company is, we have a major training program. We conduct webinars, providing training on various countries together with the Institute of Africa. It's a very popular online event where we are providing distilled information about specific countries, their history, and how to do business with them. And very often, where we have embassies, and you probably know that we do not have embassies in all countries in Africa. And our trade missions are only present in 4 countries. And therefore, we usually rely on embassies, and we provide as much support as we can through that facility. Let's talk about how we should work in Africa. Well, you need to be mindful of the following. This is probably the last growth market in the world on our planet that has not yet exhausted its potential. It's only gaining that momentum. And there are a lot of reasons for that, and that includes exponential population growth and economic growth. Some of the countries are still below the poverty line, but the middle class is growing fast, and the younger generation is also growing, and IT is well developed in these countries, and therefore this applies to basically all African countries, especially the Black Africa countries. There's another thing that we need to be mindful of, loyalty. Speaking about the sanctions that we have been slapped with, I mean, I think Africa is a window of opportunity for us. And all of our competitors are there, and all of the African countries are surprised not to see the Russians there. Russia had left there, but it needs to come back. However, there are some difficulties one needs to be aware of. Certainly, we want to sell certain products to Africa, to the end customers, but you are not going to be able to do that in the so-called Black Africa. That's not how it works there. And when we looked at the market of South Africa, that's probably the most advanced market in terms of its level of quality of services provided by your counterparts. But if we're looking at the sub-Saharan Black Africa, almost all of the countries in that area are quite poor. They don't have enough money, but it doesn't mean that you cannot sell your products. Most of the projects that are being implemented successfully there by foreign partners and sometimes by Russian companies are turnkey projects. That's when you need to find and identify a partner on the African continent. You're not going to be able to do this by coming there, making acquaintances, coming from Moscow, from the Urals. Even if you had done your homework and had learned about the company in advance, nothing is going to work. You need to have a local presence there. You have to have a partner or use other partnership opportunities that are offered to you by the Russian Export Center. They may go bankrupt, they may deceive you. It's not because they are so bad there or violate, but that's how business works there. And if you are capable of finding the right partner, you can do this either through a trade mission or if you have a partnership agreement with the Russian Export Center. If you don't have those tools, then you need to work through your embassy. They may be very small, but they do have the right expertise, and they would provide you with enough local knowledge about the local partners, the companies with good reputation, reliable partners, and so on. Another important point is the issue of funding. The Africans are not going to be able to pay you money just because you supply them something in advance or using the letter of credit. They don't have enough money. And so therefore you need to find the right scheme that will support your deal financially.
So here we have Afreximbank, we have many others, and you know, some of these companies and banks are our partners, and the Russian Export Center works with the African bank as well. So they be happy to take the African countries' risks. So if you want to enter African market with your proposal adjusted for this market, when you have already found a partner that you can trust, when you have already worked on all of the elements, then and only then your business is going to be successful and a lot of doors will open and there'll be a very promising future. But this is the truth, and I would concur to what my colleagues have spoken about before me. So I've already mentioned the possibilities. As for the threats, well, unfortunately, there's really low awareness about Africa, and this is the factor that is there, and our association is working currently on this. And in preparation for the summit, we're working with the ministry and we're working with the secretariat, and there's a partnership, Russia-Africa. So you have to read more, you have to study, not only fake news, that may scare people away, but you have to dig deeper. You have to turn to different sources. You have perhaps to turn to the African mass media, and you can talk to us in order to get reliable information, in order to understand what's the political situation, political processes ongoing in the African states. So a couple of words, literally a couple of words about Africa in general. It's not right to talk about Northern Africa or Saharan region. Actually, this is much bigger, much more than that. And there are a lot of really good economic blocks in Africa. Well, for example, in the north or Arabic Maghreb countries were represented really well today, but there's one other thing. There are countries in the economic community in the western part, and there's a big block of countries where if you talk to one country, you can understand what can you expect and how can you enter other countries from this region. Same holds true for the southern part of Africa. It's not only about South African Republic. I'm talking about Zimbabwe and Mozambique and many other countries which are quite interesting and quite serious. And through the South African Republic, you can and you must try and reach to other countries. So traditionally, Eastern community, Kenya, Tanzania, very interesting market. And they are waiting for the Russians to come. And our association, and I know that the Institute of Africa and many others, they have a list of priority African countries. And the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, they have a list too. Well, this is very promising, and this is really good for Russian business. And here I just wanted to give you some examples, a couple of examples from African countries, but actually you can talk about this for hours on end, but this is some information that we collected during webinars, and I can give you the link to our website where you can find video. And we recorded webinars jointly with the Institute of Africa, and most of our webinars were attended by the representatives of our embassies in these countries. So this is just to give you a taste of what it's like. Zimbabwe is to the north of the South African Republic, not as developed as the South African Republic, but very safe. It's a very safe country with really good political situation. They have a lot of promising mining projects and many others. Construction is quite interesting. Energy, agriculture is really strong and really well developed. So Angola, same. Well, now Angola is an oil and gas country. And we know a lot of major Russian companies are working there, and there's a huge appetite for agriculture. But it's not that easy to sell agricultural products to Angola. They call it investment. We call it joint work cooperation. So if you risk, you'll be rewarded for that. And local currency is another important factor. Because of pandemic, there are some payment delays because of conversion and exchange rate, but you have to address this to Ghana. Our business is very much interested in this country. They have really good credit rating. This is a very calm country, you may say, with a lot of opportunities, and Western businesses are well represented there. Oh, competitors. Thank God Russians turn to Ghana as well. So there are plenty of opportunities. But actually, Africa is the place where modernization and upgrade is needed dearly. So infrastructure, IT, medicine, and all of that, this has to be considered in the context of the turnkey project. So very briefly, that was it. And as I said, I'd be happy to provide my contact information. And here you can see the website of our association. We work in partnership with Russian Export Center. We're working closely with our embassies. Yes, one last thing that I remember about the fairs and exhibitions that you have to participate. There is information that despite pandemic, well, it's much weaker now, but still it's there. Afreximbank, and as I said, the Russian Export Center is the partner of this Afreximbank. They decided to conduct Pan-African fair that is going to take place in South African Republic. They've been postponing it for quite some time, but now I know that this event is very important and it's on the Russian Export Center's agenda, and Masprom is very much interested in that. I don't have any more information, but I wanted to draw your attention to this because this is Pan-African, which means there'll be a lot of businessmen from most probably of African countries. And Afrexim Bank is the supranational organization, so they have shareholders. They will ensure a lot of participants from all over the continent. Thank you very much. Well, Anna, thank you very much. Thank you. Allow me just one brief question, and I'd like to ask you to briefly respond to that. What does a Russian businessman need to do if he or she wishes to take advantage of what you have to offer? You will now have your contact information. They can contact you and you are prepared for the dialogue. So, well, let me put it bluntly, we don't have the opportunities as the Russian Export Center, but we rely a lot on webinars, conferences, and partner schemes, including regions. We've been actively, and we are actively working with our regions. And when we first meet, and I invite you to join, we conduct kickoff meetings. And this is also really good if you want to get more information. And we provide consultations for exhibitions, business missions, and the sort. So I'm not saying we can help you with everything, but we are always doing the best we can. For example, in some countries where you don't have trade missions, we're trying to arrange something to make communication between our companies and African parties possible. Anna, Marina Gdalevich has a question about the exhibition in November. Our partners said at the moment there are some riots and other problems. So does it make any sense to go there? Yes, I'm well aware of the situation. Well, but you have to bear in mind that there's always something happening in Africa. But sometimes when we read something in newspapers and magazines, it's not always true. So Afreximbank and other partners, well, they made an informed decision. So they intend to arrange this in Dublin, and they said that they will ensure maximum security. So don't worry. Well, I visited Africa many times, and some colleagues have been living in Africa for years now. So you just have to see what's actually happening. Okay, thank you very much. I'm sure Marina is satisfied with the answer. Well, thank you very much, but unfortunately we don't have any more time for Q&A session, so thank you Once again, this has been a great presentation, very interesting, and it's great that we have a lot of opportunities and we are able to enter such promising market. And as I said before, once again, we go back to the South African Republic, and I would like to give floor to Mr. Matimon Chabaleng, the Chief Executive Officer at MyShemed. So, dear speakers, should you wish to listen to the Russian translation, you're more than welcome to switch to the Russian channel. So this company is developing relationship with Russian companies. I know that Mr. Chabaleng has visited Russia on a number of occasions, and he also attended the Russia-Africa Summit in Sochi in 2019. Mr. Chabaleng, it's always interesting to hear what the forwarding partner has to say. Your view, this is the first-hand experience, very interesting. So you're more than welcome to make your presentation, and let me remind you, the topic is South African market overview, features and trends. Over to you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I hope everybody can hear me. Let me say good morning. It's still morning in South Africa. Good morning, Your Excellencies, the ambassadors, the heads of trade missions, delegates, participants, and the organizers. I would like to thank you heartily for inviting me to this auspicious gathering. I'm not sure whether you're able to see the presentation.
Да, спасибо большое, мы все прекрасно видим.
Thank you, we can see everything really well.
Okay, thank you very much. South Africa has 72 ports of entry. It has 53 of these ports of entry are land ports of entry. 11 are airports and 8 are seaports. Therefore, I would like to agree with the ambassador, the Russian ambassador to South Africa, and Maxim, that South Africa is the gateway to doing business in Africa or to the African continent. I'll go to the second slide. It says South Africa at a glance. South Africa has a 3-tier system, namely the national government, the provincial government, and the local government. This is underpinned by an independent judiciary. South Africa is one of the most sophisticated and promising emerging markets globally. We have a highly developed first world economic infrastructure. So the previous speakers have spoken at large about the economy of South Africa. And I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this and the following slides. However, when I was doing this presentation, the South African currency, the rand, was trading at 1 rand to 44.99 Russian ruble. The ambassador has already mentioned that South Africa is the second biggest economy on the African continent. In the financial years of 2019-2020, South Africa spent 1.73 trillion rand. The economy grew by 1.1% in the first quarter of this year, 2021, and this translated into 4.6% annualized growth rate. The IMF projects South African economy to rebound by 3.8% in 2021 and 2.5% in 2022. The economic sectors, the ambassador mentioned that mining is the key in South Africa, which is true. You will see that mining accounts for 288.3%, and followed by trade, which entails wholesale, retail, motor trade, etc. And then economic recovery plans. Look, I mean, South Africa, like all the global world, suffered hugely through this pandemic, and the current president is doing everything in his power to ensure that its economy goes back and part of the structural reforms that the current administration has implemented are meant to speed up electricity generation. I think just a day or two ago, South Africa has commissioned a new power station. So the second one is the creation of job opportunities, the rolling out of infrastructure, the support manufacturing, localization, and beneficiation. And these are the few investments among many that have been made in the recent months. We have about 800 million rand for poultry, 16 billion rand for the automotive sector, and 340 billion rand for infrastructure. This includes energy, water, transport, and telecoms. The legislative framework. When I listened to the Russian ambassador to South Africa, he said something very, very important. He said, when you do business in South Africa, you need to know who to talk to. I'm sure the delegates and the participants are aware that South Africa suffered great injustices, especially the majority of Black people in South Africa. So, and as a result, the government came up with legislation to redress those the injustices of the past. And one of those legislations is what is called the Broad-Based Black Economic Empowerment. This is a government policy to advance economic transformation and enhance economic participation of Black people. Because all this, for the past over 200, 300 years, we as Black people, we have been excluded from taking part in the economy of this country. And that is why if you are a Russian entity, company, you want to do business in South Africa, you need to find yourself BEE, Black people who can partner you or collaborate with you to do business here. Certain industries require an entity to have a particular percentage of Black ownership in order to participate or maintain a license to operate. A higher BEE score can result in a bidder achieving a better total score. So in other words, you cannot ignore the presence of or the participation of Black people in South Africa. So the recommendation for the Russian companies that want to do business here in South Africa. The first thing I would like to say, and I want to echo what the ambassador said, South Africa and your businesses stand a good chance of doing business here because South Africa is a partner to BRICS. And quite frankly, South Africa and Russia enjoy political relations. You have been our friends during the dark days of apartheid. So we would rather see you playing a huge part on the African continent. However, what you need to take into consideration, and Maxim said something very important. He said you can't sell something small for big amount of money. I've been dealing with the Russian companies for quite a while. As it was mentioned in the intro, I was invited by the Ministry of Industry and Trade in 2018 to attend a conference in Gelenchik. I was there. And then in 2019, I was invited by the Office of the President, of the Russian president, invited me during the Africa-Russia summit. So what I have seen, and I would like you to please take this into consideration, the pricing is very crucial to us, especially when dealing with government. So we have seen others just, ramping up their pricing such that it's very high, forgetting that we still need to pay the transport cost, the logistic cost, as well as the cost at the airport. So it's very, very important for you to take note of pricing when you are dealing with us. Secondly, the ability to respond quickly to inquiries is important for partnership. I have seen a very huge opportunity go to waste because one of the Russian entity did not respond in time. And as a result, that opportunity was lost. So I know that we may be dealing with very huge entities. However, it is very important to respond quickly to inquiries. And lastly, I'll say on this slide, I'll say respect for the laws and regulations of the country. Just reiterating what the ambassador mentioned, the majority of people in South Africa, the population of South Africa is about 60 million. The major 80% of these are Black people. So it is important for you, if you want to do a very meaningful collaboration or partnership, to partner with the right people in South Africa. There's a huge opportunity, as the ambassador said. Although we have challenges in the form of inequality, the government wants to to deal with that inequality by the positive positively advancing the Black majority of this country. So it is important for you to deal with that. Also, I mentioned before that we prefer doing business with the Russian companies because you have been there for us during the dark days of apartheid. So we would like you to really challenge the presence of other European countries on the continent, the Chinese and the Americans. We are ready to doing business with the Russian Federation. The last slide where you see the elephants, South Africa is a very well-known country for tourism. Please visit and do business and tourism in South Africa. Thank you for your attention. Thank you.
Господин Чабелин.
Mr. Chapelin, thank you ever so much for your very engaging presentation. You have provided us with very valuable recommendations for Russian exporters, for Russian companies. Thanks a lot for that. But we all realize that sometimes recommendations may be different somewhat from what we see in real life. But can you tell me, what are the key mistakes that Russian companies make when they try to enter the market of South Africa, based on what you have seen with your own eyes, based on your practical experience, if I may?
One of the one that comes to mind is, I think I would implore the Russian companies to get in touch with their embassy in South Africa, because they read on the internet and about things that are really hearsay, that are not there, So, for instance, I remember one executive did not want to attend the Africa Health conference that was taking place in Johannesburg because he thought that the crime was very, very, very high, So these are the things that if you're going to do a research using Google, and then you will miss opportunities, And also, I think, as I pointed out, it's very important to keep track of the pricing. When you're doing business with government, if we are able to increase the volumes, if you put the pricing at a very a normal, if you give us a normal and proper pricing. Thank you.
Господин Чабелин, огромное еще.
Mr. Chapelin, thank you again very much for your presentation, for finding the time in your busy schedule, and for investing so much in the development of our mutual relations, bilateral relations between our two nations. We'd like to wish you the best of success in your trade with Russia, and we hope that the number of contracts between your company and your Russian partners is only going to grow. Thank you again for your attention to this event. Thank you.
Спасибо.
Очень интересному
Dear participants, we're now approaching the last, final part of our conference, the first-hand accounts of success stories and failures stories. And I'd like to give the floor now to the commercial director of Liston that sells commercial medical equipment, Mr. Saprigin, and they sell it to many nations in the world, including South Africa. What has been your experience in coming to the market of South Africa? I would be really appreciative if you could share your experience about your practical experience in South Africa. I know that you have information about certain numbers about South Africa, which we have been given quite a lot. We could skip that, but we would really appreciate if you could share your practical experience. Sorry to say, we have not been supplying to South Africa straight. We have been quite successful supplying to neighboring nations, but we are now in talks to do that. But from the practical standpoint, we have been supplying to nearly 60 countries. It all started in 2013. I would like to express my appreciation to the Embassy of Morocco and their trade mission there. You once helped us by inviting us to a trade fair. You made us believe that this is something that would work. Well, a lot of time has passed since then. We had been supplying a lot of our products to the north of the continent. We have expanded our deliveries to Sub-Saharan or Black Africa, as we call it sometimes. How did we succeed in doing that? Well, a lot of the pieces of advice we had heard apply to major businesses, that you need to have joint production, that you have to have partnerships, assembly lines. We are a small business and we offer a boxed product. General lab equipment produced in Kaluga region. It is basically the same you can find elsewhere in the world. We primarily compete with Germany, Korea, China, and Turkey. We initially competed with German producers because we had a better quality price ratio. Some people said that this may not work anymore. I believe it still does. It's just that you have to make your offer interesting and promising. How did we entice our client? Well, this is something that we've done through the use of our internet opportunities. We have done this quite successfully with the help of Russian Export Center. Before they got involved, it was much harder, and you cannot find a better helper than theirs. So I'd like to suggest that you start exporting now. Speaking about the nuances or difficulties that exist in Africa, well, you have to be mindful of the mental differences we have, mindset differences, to be more exact. You cannot fight that, you have to adapt. Plus, there are logistical issues that you need to be aware of. It's quite expensive to ship products, not just to Africa, but anywhere else in the world, basically. And as for any bias against Russian products, I'd like to say that Africa is the region in the world where we are loved and where we are being expected. If you try to sell something to Western Europe, which we also do, you would have to overcome the preconceived notion or stereotype that Russian equipment is somewhat obsolete and not cutting edge, but that's not the case with Africa. If you come to Africa, you need to understand what is the right price. You need to understand that there's still competition, and it's a little bit more open market than Latin America or Western Europe or Southeastern Asia, where they have more players. But right now, one of the reasons why you need to hasten to go to Africa is that the market is less saturated with competitors. You need to understand that your pricing must be objective. You should not try to sell beads at an exorbitant price. The African market is quite interesting. Speaking about Northern Africa, and I've had a lot of experience with that. Let me say that Moroccans are not that different from the French, neither in the way they conduct their business, nor in how they conduct their negotiations. And there are no issues with making payments they have in Algeria. Because in Algeria, they cannot make advance payments. And the same goes for Senegal, for example. I'm talking about advance payments. That is something that is restricted by legislation. You have to resign to that fact. That's how it is in Africa, because their currency legislations are quite tough. Well, just get used to that and use letters of credit or LNCs as a tool or a facility to get payment for your products. I think, speaking about other problems or issues, one of the key problems faced by Russian exporters is that we are not really well known there. If you come to an exhibition and offer and showcase your product, good quality product with a good price, people start asking you questions. And that's when what happens, well, what Mr. Chebelin said happens then. I have lost opportunities myself by not responding quickly enough. And you need to understand that as soon as your business mission is over and the very first talks had taken place and things are just beginning, you need to work fast. And I would also support Mr. Bureev in what he said. You need to understand what you're selling, and those snow sources are not something that you should be selling to South Africa. And before you start selling anything in the country, you need to do your homework. I have had talks with my partners in South Africa, and I had not been quite successful. And I understand why, because this kind of product with the same kind of quality is something that is produced domestically, locally. And you need to factor in the customs duty on imports. Price-wise, we cannot really compete well. But we have been selling our products successfully in a neighboring country, in Zambia. And I think it would be more productive if we have a Q&A session. If you have specific questions about what we've done and how we've overcome certain difficulties. Now, we succeeded. Maxim and Ilya had been talking about payments issues. So we've had issues like that. Payments in dollars were suspended because of Russia's banks being on sanctioned lists. But there are ways to go around this. You could switch to euros, for example. And in my case, I had to change my bank and use a Russian subsidiary of a major French bank in order to receive some payments from Northern Africa in dollars. So these are lots of minor things, but we've had to deal with them. And I think I would like to rather answer questions about specific questions rather than talking in general. Thank you, Yuri. Let us go through a number of questions. We don't have a lot of time left. The question has come. We have tried STE mechanisms. What banks do that? How can we do this in a most efficient way? Oh, well, I raised my brow. I've never had any issues with letters of credit, but it's just a matter of banks recognizing each other. I use Sberbank for one. Most of my currency payments go through Sberbank for a variety of reasons. We don't have issues with LNCs. I used to at one point use a local bank. Well, their document play was organized slightly more differently, but you still can use subsidiaries of major banks from abroad. Rosbank is a subsidiary of Societe Generale, but of course, there's a lot of paperwork involved, but that's the requirement of the Russian banking laws. Do you have any experience working with government procurement tenders in countries located in Africa? It's a question from Andre. I did not take part in any direct export tenders, and I wouldn't even advise you to do that based on my experience. But my product is very often showcased in UN tenders. We win those tenders, but not directly. We have a number of partners in Western Europe who do that for us. France is the country we interact with when it comes to Northern Africa, and they win such tenders for us there. We also have similar partners in Austria. They participate in such tenders with our product, and we directly then supply these products to the customers. But I had never participated in these tenders myself before. And probably if you are an SME, I wouldn't recommend that you do this. As opposed to being a major business, you have the resources if you are. But if you are a smaller company, you better act through the domestic companies. What is the first country that you picked for your product in Africa? I wasn't the one that chose it. It was the trade mission in the Kingdom of Morocco. Very briefly, when we decided that we wanted to sell our products somewhere, we didn't have this support structure, but we just had a list of trade missions, and I started talking to them, calling them. And they picked up the phone, they listened to us, and they called back. And they said there will be an exhibition in a month's time. Come. I said, I don't have the time for that. Come just like that. You don't have to bring the equipment. Come with a presentation. I had more than 20 meetings arranged with different companies in Casablanca, and I still work with one of those companies on a regular basis. I just had a customs declaration issued for the product, and it's going to fly to Morocco the next day. So use the services offered by the trade missions. They cannot afford to buy you the services of a local consultant, but take advantage of the services of consulting companies that are recommended to you by the trade missions, because they know of the local situation, they know the local reality. And our colleagues from the Embassy of Morocco probably remember a company, RF Consulting, headed up by Mr. Handani. And they are the partners that we're still working with. And Morocco was the very first partner we had. Thank you so much, Yuri.
Вас слушают и еще раз понимают.
Well, thank you very much. And I really hope that our participants understand you really well, what you mean. So I'm sure they will do the right thing. So, last question from Marina Gdilevich. How can you get in UN tenders? Well, do something that others don't. I can explain. Well, first of all, one of my major products is lab distillator, well, used in any lab. This is for washing, lab equipment and all of that. So you use steam stripping. And actually, there are plenty of manufacturers of this product, but this is really small niche. I have the most powerful equipment. Most companies have 12 liters per hour. I have 25. This is it. Somebody some time ago found this specification, and I know that somebody from the Austrian company has done something, and we are working with UNDP. We supply this to Africa and to other countries. And actually, the Russian Export Center has all the information on their website. Actually, I haven't gone there for quite some time, so perhaps it's a question to the Russian Export Center. I think they did have something, the toolkit or the procedure, how can you get in? But you have to understand that you have to have all the certificates and all of that. You have to be prepared for that because EIS certificates are required in EIS only, and that's it. Or neighbors, that's not for them. So if you want to sell something somewhere, you have to understand, you have to have what they need, what they require, and you have to comply with these requirements. Well, Yuri, thank you very much. And once again, my idea is very simple: hard work, think and work. We all want success, we want results. One goes together with the other. So Yuri, once again, thank you very much. Thank you for your presentation. We wish you all the best and every success in your international activity and trade. So thank you very much for sharing valuable experience. So the very final speaker of our conference would be Yana Sachs. This is another success story from a Russian company. It's a Sibirina company, cosmetics. They sell to China, US, African continent. Yana, my apologies for the delay. But in my defense, usually during the concert, the last one to present what I have is the star. So here you are. The floor is yours. Do tell us what was your success story. Well, first of all, good afternoon, and I really hope you can hear me. Yes, we can hear you, we can see you really well. Okay, that's great news. So briefly about myself, about our company, but before that, I would like to thank everyone for your recommendations because you have clarified a lot of things. I had a lot of questions, but now they're all gone. I already got my answers. So let me tell you a few words about our brand, Sibirina. This is natural cosmetics. We are brand #1 in Russia, and I can explain why. We are talking about natural cosmetics, not in general in cosmetics, not this segment, but natural cosmetics. So most of our products are 100% natural. And I would like to stress that's why we are very popular on the market, and customers are very much interested in us because it's all about bio, natural, and all that. That's why we're getting a lot of requests. However, we have quite a number of challenges when it gets to export, for example, because every country requires its own certificate. Or let's take European Union, they can have combined or joint certificates. But if you take African countries, let's say, of course, we had some difficulties with certification and we haven't found a solution so far, but later about this in my presentation. So specifics. Why is our cosmetics unique? Well, we have natural toothpaste, very popular for export, and not only. African region countries, well, African countries are very much interested in our toothpaste because they're very natural. Other types of products are also very popular. And a couple of words about sales. 35 countries that we're working with at the moment, but I wouldn't say that the supply or deliveries are regular. Let me say, for the purpose of this meeting, that we have only one client, is a Cape Town client, and a client from France. This is it. At the moment, I can't say that we have many great clients that care about their clients in their countries. And for us, we have only these two countries. Now, success story. Well, I wouldn't say that this would be very different or considered to be a great success as compared to the previous speakers, but for us, well, we're not in the capital, we are located in the region. So in 2019, we have signed a contract and we've sold our first batch in 2020. And this batch went to our Cape Town client. Well, it wasn't that difficult because client's wife, she was Russian speaking. So she rounded all the corners that were there. So she actually helped us communicate with her husband. So we didn't have any misunderstanding. It was really easy to communicate with her. Certificates, documents, or customs documents, we were ready and everything went smoothly. So our success story was a success story because we actually heard each other and understood each other really well. They also really liked the idea of us having Black employees, full-time employees. I can't disclose any information, but some of them are studying in our universities and they are officially working in our companies. So foreign clients really like that. So in conclusion, after the first batch, we have shipped it, everything went well. At the moment, we're working on the second batch and there'll be quite a number of products in this batch. And at the moment, we are entertaining the idea of sending other types of cosmetics for Black population. And once again, this is natural cosmetics, and this would include mascara and other things. But I haven't found anything like that anywhere in the world. So briefly, in a nutshell, this is it. But I would like to thank the Russian Export Center and other organizers and participants. So thank you for funding, thank you for supporting us, for assisting us. As for our client in Cape Town, well, they helped us with the logistics a great deal. They gave us really good shipper, and the shipper has taught us what and how should be done. So we now have really good experience. We know what we need to know, and we are sure in our client. The client has every confidence in us. So briefly, this is it, and this has been our success story. Well, Yana, thank you very much. Could you tell us, please, payment schemes that you're using? What are they? What do they look like? Well, bank transfer, that's what we had. Unfortunately, I don't have all the details on that because in our case, it was a legal department working on that. So I don't have the details, but I know that there has been a bank transfer through Sberbank and the payment was in dollars. That's it. Right, but and it was 100% prepayment. No, it was 100% prepayment. Okay, I thought it wasn't a prepayment. And the client had to pay for the products, for logistics, and this was in the contract. Logistics, designer services, customs clearance, and I don't know, we've used everything, we've done everything. So the client has received all the designs. So whatever the client has paid for, we've sent it. It's not that we've charged the client, sent the products, and that's it. No, it wasn't like that. It was a turnkey project, so that's what we charged the client for. Okay, you said it was 100% prepayment. Well, that's great. But is this the only scheme that you're working under or not? No, no, it's not always like that. Most of our contracts are with payment later upon receipt of the product. Well, in some agreements and in some contracts, we get the payment, let's say, after customs clearance, and the timeline may be 90 days after processing, after customs clearance, or without the prepayment. We have contracts like that. But speaking about Cape Town, in this case, it was 100% prepayment. Okay, I get it. I get it. Well, you have to believe in it. You have to have trust. Well, perhaps you got lucky. Yes, right. The client on the market after sales, did they went to the market with their own brand? Yes. Yes, it was a contract manufacturing, and natural cosmetics is not that big of a segment in the world. There are not many companies that can actually prove that the quality is really good. Raw materials are 100% natural. So we have a lot of requests, a lot of countries. And when I'm completing the documents for Russian Export Center, there are a lot of questions. Who did you work with? Sales markets. So in my case, it's much easier to actually show where I didn't sell to. So natural cosmetics, that's a must have. Okay, Jana, thank you very much. Thank you. Do you work with Argentina? Argentina? Well, I think in 2016 we had a request, but we couldn't agree on logistics. I'm sorry to interrupt, but the reason I'm asking this, there's a question from Boris Berg. Is there a chance to get in Argentina to enter this market? Well, I think he's asking this question because he has something in mind. So we are witnessing a big contract. This contract is about to be signed. I'm not sure whether it's going to work out or not, but we shall see. So Boris, do contact Jana, and you can ask your questions, or dear participants, I'm reading the questions. But Jana's advice, Jana's success recipe is quite simple. Create something competitive. Find the right price quality balance. And Jana just said that this segment is not that big. So if you do something like that, you find the right balance, then you'd be successful. Am I right, Jana? Absolutely. And I think this is crystal clear to everyone. Unfortunately, people tend to forget about things like that. So, dear colleagues, once again, Jana, thank you very much for your presentation. Thank you. We don't have any more questions. So, as a moderator, I will try to bring our meeting to a close. I'm sorry, our schedule has slipped a bit and we're behind the schedule, but we had such interesting presentations and we've exhausted our agenda now. And first of all, I'd like to express my gratitude to the Russian Export Center. Thank you for organizing this. Thank you for doing everything possible to help our exporters. I would like to thank our distinguished guest speakers, trade representatives, ambassadors, exporters, representatives of associations that have prepared really interesting presentations. And I would like to express my gratitude to our guest from the South African Republic. And I would like to thank my exporters and all the listeners and participants who asked their interesting questions. So I would like to wish all the participants of this event successful and fruitful negotiations and good contracts. So dear participants, members of the conference, thank you very much. All the best. Russian Export Center is there for you.